I've got a water pump bearing type roller here that I'm going to rebuild. Put the roller tamer frame in my vise so that the little bar on the bottom of the frame is resting on top of the vise jaws. Tighten it. We're going to do our normal setup. Left hand bracket in the left hand slot with the bottom leg pointing to the right. Slide it down to the end. Pull it back 1 inch. Tighten it. 2-inch tapered insert goes in. I'm going to put the retaining clips on. I'm going to orient so the spring-loaded ball and the retainers is pointing towards the insert. Right hand bracket with the bottom leg pointing to the right. Goes in the right hand slot all the way to the end. Tighten it. I've got a 1 5/8 tapered insert. I'm going to hold this one in place with a carriage bolt. It goes through the bottom hole in the bracket. Slip the roller in. This is a 2-inch roller. If you've got a 2.5 or 3-inch roller, you want, instead of slipping it in through this left hand bracket and insert, you would capture it. Basically the same concept. There's a few different ways to pull these bearings out. Obviously if it's got a hole, 1/4 inch hole through the shaft, you just put the puller over the shaft, slip that 1/4 inch pin in, turn it so the pin is horizontal. Put my right puller bridge with the bottom leg pointing to the left. Butt it up against that right hand bracket. Tighten it. If you've got an older model tamer, you'll have to put the insert, the standoffs, in the holes at the same time you're sliding this puller bridge in. Some of the newer models, you can just drop that in after you've already tightened this puller bridge in place. Jacking screw. Threads into the puller. Tighten the jacking nut against the thrust bearing. 15mm wrench out here on the end, rested against the frame to keep this whole thing from spinning. That's going to pull the bearing out. Now if I don't have a hole through the bearing stub to drop a pin in, there's a few other ways to attach it. Some of them have a hole out here on the end. If so, I'll use that. I'll thread this adapter in there, and then I'll attach the puller. I'll thread the jacking screw into this adapter. Pull it out like that. If you don't have any hole at all, what I usually do is I'll grind a notch on each side and then clamp it. Clamp the puller with a screw on each side. Okay, and that'll pull it out. You could also drill a hole through that bearing stub. If you want to do that, I like to clamp the puller onto that stub with these two screws, and that'll give you a guide so you can drill a hole, 1/4-inch hole, right through the middle of that stub. This is the adapter that I showed earlier that threads into the end of the stub if you have a threaded hole in the end. Okay, either way, we got the bearing out now. If this stub comes out and leaves the outer race inside the roller, I've got a different video that covers the procedure that I use to remove that outer race. To install the new bearing, I'm going to use the same tool. This is the puller. It's also the bearing installation tool. I like to tilt the tamer up. Flip this around. I've got a handle that I screw into the puller / driver tool. knock the new bearing in like that, and I can go ahead and pull the bearing out of the other end. If you would rather press bearing in, I've got an attachment that will do that. Put a new bearing in on that end. I need four 1/4" pins or screws. Screw into the, or slip into the side of the end brackets. Drop the press attachment on. This is the same tool, installation tool, over the bearing. Thread the jacking screw into the end of the attachment. Drop in our standoff. And the bearing is all the way in. Got to loosen that. Anyway, that's it for the water pump bearing type rollers. You could, I forgot to mention, if you already have a water pump bearing puller, most of them will work in this roller tamer device. This is an R&R water pump bearing puller without the sleeve. This is the other part of it. You can just use this part of it. If you have a model ASP roller tamer, it will come with short standoffs that you'll need to use that R&R puller. Instead of the normal setup, what you will need to do is install this right hand bracket so that the bottom leg is pointing to the left. Like that. Everything else is pretty much the same. You'll put your puller over the bearing and secure it using one either with the pin or with these bolts.